What if I told you that this old-looking British 50 pence coin is actually a piece of the history of Britain's change to decimal currency? Welcome back to Old Coins Explorer, the channel where we discover the hidden history, fascinating designs, and real value of old and collectible coins. Today, we are taking a close look at a very interesting British coin from the year 1969. This is the United Kingdom 50 new pence coin, featuring the portrait of Queen Elizabeth II. At first glance, this coin may look like an ordinary old British coin, but its history makes it much more interesting. The year 1969 was an important period because Britain was preparing for one of the biggest changes in its monetary history. The country was moving away from the old pounds, shillings, and pence system toward decimal currency. This large 7-sided 50p was introduced as part of that important transition. The coin shown in our photographs has the classic Queen Elizabeth II portrait on the obverse and Britannia with a lion on the reverse. But here comes the big question: is this 1969 50p actually rare, and could it be worth much more than its face value today? In this video, we will examine its history, design, specifications, mintage, rarity, condition, and realistic collector value. Identification and basic specifications. The coin we are examining is a 1969 United Kingdom 50 new pence coin from the reign of Queen Elizabeth II. It belongs to the original large-size 50p coins that were introduced before Britain completed its transition to decimal currency. One of the easiest ways to identify this coin is its unusual 7-sided shape. The shape is commonly described as a curved heptagon, giving the coin 7 curved sides rather than a traditional circular outline. The original 50p was considerably larger and heavier than the modern British 50p coins that collectors are familiar with today. The standard 1969 circulation version was made from cupro-nickel, an alloy of copper and nickel. Its official specifications are approximately 30 mm in diameter and 13.5 grams in weight. The coin has a smooth-looking edge compared with some other British denominations of the period. On the obverse we see Queen Elizabeth II, while the reverse carries the famous Britannia design. The combination of the date 1969, the large 7-sided shape, the Queen's portrait, and the words new pence makes this coin relatively easy to identify. Queen Elizabeth II portrait and inscription. Let us now take a closer look at the obverse side showing Queen Elizabeth II. The portrait on this coin was created by the famous British sculptor and coin designer Arnold Machin. It is known as the second definitive portrait of Queen Elizabeth II used on British circulating coinage. The Queen is shown facing toward the right, wearing the elegant portrait style that became strongly associated with British decimal coins. Around her portrait is the Latin inscription Elizabeth II Dei Gratia Regina F laughing face. The words Dei Gratia translate approximately as, by the grace of God, while Regina means Queen. The letters F laughing face are an abbreviation of Fidei Defensor, traditionally meaning defender of the faith. The date 1969 appears beneath the portrait and is one of the most important details for identifying this particular issue. The condition of the portrait can also tell collectors a lot about how much circulation the coin experienced. On the example shown in your photographs, the portrait and lettering are still visible, but there is considerable surface wear, meaning this is a circulated example rather than a pristine uncirculated coin. Britannia reverse and its meaning. Turning the coin over, we reach one of the most famous designs in British numismatic history, Britannia. Britannia is shown seated beside a powerful lion, representing Britain and its national strength. She holds a trident, which is traditionally associated with the sea and Britain's long maritime history. In her other hand she holds an olive branch, a traditional symbol of peace. A shield is also positioned beside her, adding another important symbol of protection and national identity. Below the main design we can see the large denomination 50, making the value of the coin immediately clear. Above Britannia is the wording new pence, which is especially important when identifying early British decimal coinage. The reverse design was created by Christopher Ironside, a major British coin designer whose work became strongly associated with the introduction of decimal currency. The use of Britannia also connected Britain's new decimal money with centuries of earlier British coinage traditions. This beautiful combination of Britannia, the lion, trident, shield, olive branch, denomination, and new pence inscription gives the 1969 50p a very distinctive historical character. Why the year 1969 is historically important. The year 1969 makes this coin particularly interesting because Britain was in the middle of preparing for decimalisation. For centuries, British currency had used a complicated system involving pounds, shillings, and pence. The government decided to introduce a simpler decimal system in which £1 would eventually be divided into 100 pence. The 50p was introduced in advance of decimal day so that the public could become familiar with the new denomination. The coin entered circulation on October 14, 1969, making it one of the earliest British decimal coins used by the general public. The large seven-sided shape helped people recognize the new denomination quickly, even when several different coins were being handled together. The 50p also had an important practical role because it was designed to replace the old 10-shilling note. The old 10-shilling note was eventually withdrawn from circulation in 1970 as Britain moved closer to full decimalisation. This means that a 1969 50p is not simply an old coin, it represents a major turning point in the history of everyday British money. For collectors, owning one is therefore like owning a small piece of the story of Britain's transition into the modern decimal currency system. Mintage, rarity, and the truth about its value. Now we come to the question that most viewers are probably waiting for: is the 1969 50 new pence rare? The answer requires a little caution because historical importance and rarity are not exactly the same thing. Approximately 188.4 million circulation examples of the 1969 50p were produced, which is a very large number. Because of this substantial mintage, the ordinary circulated 1969 50p is not considered an extremely rare British coin. This is important because some online videos and social media posts claim that every old 1969 50p is automatically worth hundreds or even thousands of pounds. Those claims should be treated very carefully because the date alone does not make this coin exceptionally valuable. What can make an individual example more desirable is its condition, authenticity, variety, proof status, or a genuine minting error. A heavily circulated example like the one shown in these photographs will generally have a much lower collector value than a perfectly preserved example. Collectors should also remember that an advertised price is not necessarily the same thing as the price a coin actually sells for. So the real attraction of this particular coin is its combination of early decimal history, iconic Britannia design, Queen Elizabeth II portrait, and its place in the beginning of Britain's decimal currency era. Realistic value and what collectors should look for. Now let us discuss the realistic value of the 1969 United Kingdom 50 new pence coin, because this is where collectors need to separate facts from exaggerated internet claims. The standard 1969 circulation issue had a very large mintage, so an ordinary circulated example is generally not a rare £1,000 coin simply because it carries the date 1969. The coin in your photographs shows clear signs of circulation, including wear on Queen Elizabeth II portrait, Britannia, the lion, and the raised details of the design. Because condition has a major effect on collectability, a worn example will normally be worth much less than a sharply struck, well-preserved specimen. The value can also vary according to whether the coin is being sold privately, through an auction, or by a specialist dealer. Another important point is that an asking price is not the same as a confirmed selling price, so collectors should always check genuine completed sales when researching value. Genuine mint errors can be much more interesting, particularly if the error is dramatic and can be authenticated. Proof or specially produced examples can also have a different market value from normal circulation coins. Therefore, if someone claims that every 1969 50p is automatically worth hundreds of pounds, that claim should be treated with caution. Your coin is best appreciated as an important early decimal British coin, while its exact monetary value would require a closer physical examination and comparison with recent genuine sales. Final verdict, collector advice and outro. So, after examining the history and the photographs, what is the final verdict on this 1969 British 50 new pence coin? It is a genuine-looking example of the original large-size British 50p design, featuring Queen Elizabeth II's Arnold Machin portrait and Christopher Ironside's Britannia reverse. Its strongest attraction is its historical importance as a first-generation decimal 50p introduced in 1969. The large seven-sided format, the new pence inscription, and the Britannia design make it instantly recognizable to collectors of British decimal coinage. However, the high mintage means the standard circulated coin should not automatically be described as extremely rare or worth a huge amount of money. The example in your photographs shows substantial circulation wear, so its value is likely to be modest unless further examination reveals an unusual variety or genuine mint error. Collectors should avoid cleaning the coin because aggressive polishing can damage the original surface and actually reduce collector appeal. Instead, keep it dry, handle it carefully by the edges, and store it in a suitable non-PVC coin holder or capsule. And remember, the real treasure here is not only the money value but the story of Britain's transformation from pre-decimal currency to the decimal system. If you enjoyed this detailed journey through the 1969 50 new pence, subscribe to Old Coins Explorer, because there are many more old coins with surprising stories waiting to be discovered.